Hello and welcome to Transfermarkt TV. My name is Stefan Bienkowski, and once again I'm joined by Ben Littlemore. It's Tuesday, and on the Transfermarkt YouTube channel that means we pick a player to discuss their market value development, whether it's gone up, whether it's gone down, and we take a look at their form over the course of the last kind of couple of weeks, even the course of a season, to see how that might impact their market value going forward. And today we want to talk about Arsenal striker Gabriel Jesus. Arsenal had a bit of a tricky run of it this weekend against Southampton. They had to go a goal behind before they turned things around and picked up a 3-1 win. And throughout it all, Jesus kind of came across as quite a frustrated figure. Ben, if we take a quick look at Gabriel Jesus' market value over the course of his career, but most recently, the most recent Premier League market value saw him go down by 10 million euros. So why don't you just fill in people who maybe don't follow Arsenal, who maybe haven't been following Gabriel Jesus' career for a while, how he's doing, and perhaps why we've seen his market value drop for the third consecutive time?
Yeah. Gabriel Jesus has been a frustrating player at Arsenal for a while now, but Saturday I was at the Emirates Stadium watching that game, and for me it's the worst I've seen him perform in an Arsenal shirt. Gabriel Jesus, his numbers haven't been great for a long time now in terms of goals and assists, but he usually offers a lot to the team. You know, he drops a bit deeper, he goes out wide, and he starts attacks, but he offered absolutely nothing to Arsenal. And it was no surprise when he was hooked for Leandro Trossard on the hour mark, and then Arsenal looked a much more cohesive unit with Kai Havertz up front and went on to win the game. It's been a really unusual career for Gabriel Jesus, really. You know, he came through, there was those pictures of him painting the streets at the 2014 World Cup as a youngster, and then 2 or 3 years later he was playing for Manchester City in the Premier League. He had made a great impact, I think, against Tottenham on his debut and scored and looked a real star at Manchester City. His market value went up to 80 million. People thought he was going to be the successor to Sergio Aguero. And then it didn't quite work out for him there. His lack of goals, his lack of getting in the box cost him. And then he goes and signs for Arsenal. And this is at a time where Arsenal haven't been in the Champions League for 4 seasons. And, the sprinkling of him and Zinchenko coming from the champions at the time, Man City, it felt like a bit of stardust coming into the Emirates. And the way he started, he was magnificent for that first 6 months, unplayable at times, beating players. Then he picked up this knee injury just before the World Cup, the Winter World Cup. And ever since then, it's been a bit of a slow downhill spiral for Gabriel Jesus. And Kai Havertz is very much the man for Arsenal now up top.
Yeah, it's been a kind of frustrating couple of years for him, isn't it? As you said, he kind of burst onto the scene at Man City as this kind of exciting young Brazilian forward, and whether through injury or just kind of a victim of circumstance, both at Man City and at Arsenal, he just seemed to be struggling. We've talked a lot on this channel about the kind of striker situations that Arsenal have, but you can look at the players that have come and gone in that team and how Jesus, as you said, kind of really poorly timed injuries have kind of got in the way of him establishing himself as that kind of number 9. And we're now in a situation where Kai Havertz has come along, potentially signed as a midfielder perhaps at first, although he obviously played up front for Chelsea for quite a while before joining Arsenal, but is really making a name for himself and demanding almost that number 9 position, so much so that on Saturday, as you mentioned, though, Jesus starts up front, Havertz plays midfield, but by the end of the game, Havertz is basically taking it on himself to be the talisman.
Yeah, Kai Havertz has been sensational, and like you say, he was rewarded with a plus 5 million upgrade in this latest Premier League market value update, while Gabriel Jesus dropped by 10 million. And right now, it seems quite hard for Jesus to get back in that team. In pre-season, Jesus was actually really impressive for Arsenal, and Arteta said it's the best shape he's seen Jesus in for a long time. And then a week and a half into the season, he broke down again, missed 2 weeks, and right now it just looks so difficult for him to get back into that team. I still think he can play a big part for Arsenal. I think he's such a talented footballer. We saw last season he came on against Bayern Munich in the Champions League round of 16 and made a real difference, set up the Trossard goal, brilliant assist. And he's got that. Arsenal haven't got too many players who one-on-one can beat a player. Bukayo Saka's obviously the one that can do it. Martinelli can, but more through pace. But Jesus is a player that can beat a player out of nothing, probably alongside Bukayo Saka, the best in that department in the Arsenal squad. So there probably is still a place for them. But there's going to be temptations. His market value may keep falling if he's not playing. He's played just 79 minutes in the Premier League this season. He played 1,483, which was down around 600 minutes last season as well, and scored just 4 goals and 5 assists in the league. You compare that to his first season, he got 11 goals and 6 assists. So you can see there's been a steady decline there. And as this Arsenal team have got better, Gabriel Jesus has found it harder and harder to get into that team.
Yeah, I do also kind of wonder if he's almost like a jack of all trades but massive none, in the sense that he's proved to be such a useful player for Arsenal because he can fill in just about anywhere. I mean, in that recent game against Manchester City, he was more or less playing at left back by the end of the game, just trying to help out defensively. And obviously, Arsenal fans love that. I'm sure Arteta really appreciates it. But as you said, on a personal level for him, I mean, it does him well if he obviously wins a Premier League medal out of it. But in terms of his own stats, in terms of his own development as a striker, it might be getting in the way of him developing into the player that he wants to be. And, as you said, Arsenal aren't really, they're not a squad full of strikers to pick from. Obviously, Kai Havertz is the main man, but he himself's a converted midfielder, obviously. Brought in Raheem Sterling, you would presume, hoping that he can kind of add goals to his game and kind of plays that kind of inside forward. But the thing I'm really interested in is if you kind of look at the strikers who've been at the club and left the club since Arteta came in, you can go all the way back to Aubameyang, Lacazette. Recent seasons, we've seen Balogun move on, and of course, this summer, Nketiah moved on as well. Do you think Gabriel Jesus may just be the latest one in this kind of conveyor belt of strikers who haven't picked up enough game time, haven't really convinced Arteta they're good enough to be the number 9, and eventually have to move on? Or do you think he might settle into this role and just be like, look, I'm not going to be, the Premier League top goal scorer anytime soon, but I have a role at Arsenal. I enjoy playing for this club. The manager presumably appreciates what I do as well, so I'm just going to stay put.
Yeah, I think Arteta's a big fan of Gabriel Jesus, and I do think at times in the past he has become one of those victims of, every time they make a mistake, it's really focused on, and every single time it's just they're the scapegoat when perhaps other players who are more high profile have also had a bad game, but it doesn't get noticed. But Jesus, there's been a bit of a change. So in the 4-2 Arsenal win against Leicester, Gabriel Jesus noticeably showed his frustration on the bench when Ethan Nwaneri came on before him at 17 years old when Arsenal were trying to win the game. And then there was also a clip of Jesus as he's about to come on. Arsenal get the winning goal under Leandro Trossard, and he doesn't celebrate where everyone else does. You'd presume because of his frustration only coming on in the 91st minute of that game. So that would suggest that he's not happy with this role he's playing at the moment, and he wants more game time. But then Arteta gives him, you're right, you're going to start against probably the weakest team in the league against Southampton at home. What have you got? And he offers absolutely nothing. So it doesn't bode well for him. He's going to have 2 weeks now in this international break to work on his game, to stay fit in training. I still think he has got a part to play for Arsenal because, as you kind of touched upon, there's not that many options. Leandro Trossard can play up front and has been brilliant whenever he's been called upon. But there's not really an orthodox striker. Even Gabriel Jesus isn't really an orthodox striker. But I think there could be a temptation, potentially. Some fans I've seen on social media sort of calling for it. If Saudi Arabian club comes in with an offer of sort of 70, 80 million euros, are Arsenal best off accepting that for Gabriel Jesus and reinvesting that maybe perhaps in a younger alternative up front? And I think it's definitely a good argument to have. I do think you're going to struggle to replace his quality in some terms, in terms of his ability as a general footballer. But he needs to start stepping up when he gets his opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just quickly checking. Excuse me. I was going to mention his record for Brazil and how he hasn't actually played for Brazil since last November, but I suspect a large chunk of that will obviously be the injury. He picked up the knee injury last year, which maybe ruled him out of the Copa America. But that's obviously another aspect of his game as well. Excuse me. But yeah, of course. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens there. As a player who obviously has a lot of ambition for his country, but as you said, he can also kind of paint himself as a kind of frustrated figure. But Arsenal fans, let us know what you think about Gabriel Jesus' form. His market value has been steadily declining over the last year or so at Arsenal. Do you think he's still an important player? Do you think he has a future at Arsenal? Or do you think he has to move on to kind of fulfill his potential as an impressive Brazilian striker? Let us know in the comments below. Please remember to like this video before you head off and subscribe if you aren't done so already. And we'll see you soon.